Good evening. I'm Sonia Relia, the author of the activity based series My Learning Train for Foundational Years. So, a lot of teachers have been speaking to me and telling me that, we are all going through the NCF, we are looking at the learning outcomes, but somehow we are not able to relate the activities at different stages. So I thought that let me try in the next few weeks to cover the competencies, the learning outcomes graded from beginners to class 2, and to connect a set of activities with it. So let's begin with understanding the aims of education. So the aim of education is the vision that gives a broad direction. Curriculum goals, which are referred to as CG, are goals that give direction to curriculum development and implementation. Then you have competencies, which are observable learning achievements that can be assessed and observed systematically. And then you have the learning outcomes, which are the milestones of learning at every level the child is at. Like at beginners, that this is what, like this is this is an X competency, and the child at beginners will show these learning outcomes. The level 1 will show this learning outcome, the level 2 or UKG will show this learning outcome. Class 1 will show these learning outcomes, and class 2 will show these learning outcomes. So, what happens is once we understand how the outcomes are graded, we can plan activities according to that. So, when we read versus when we listen, perhaps this may help you all to take it further. So, going to the next step now, we are going to be talking about the 13 competencies, 68 learning outcomes. So, it's beginning with the physical domain, the physical development, which says the first competency shows liking for and understanding of nutritious food and does not waste food. So, what does a beginner do? A beginner identifies that things that can be eaten, not eaten, begins to eat and name a variety of foods, recognizes a few tastes in food, understands and expresses hunger and thirst, names a few healthy and unhealthy food items. This is a beginner's learning outcomes. Then a level 1 child eats a variety of food from different groups with adult support, identifies healthy and unhealthy food, gives reasons for why some food is unhealthy, follows picture recipes to create little snacks with the adult help, and eats without spilling. Then the level 2 child or the UKG child, or a child by the age of 4, between 4 and 5, eats from a variety of food groups independently and can categorize them, recognizes more taste, sweet, salty, bitter, sour, names some of the qualities of good nutritious food, participates in preparing nutritious snacks with little more independence, and eats without wasting food when served in appropriate proportions. A class 1 child enjoys a variety of food from different food groups, identifies major ingredients also, can prepare a nutritious snack looking at a small simple recipe, asks for appropriate portions of food. What would a class 2 child do? Our competency remains the same. It is just the learning outcomes at each level. The class 2 child seeks for a variety to fulfill the nutritional needs. So he's a little more or she's a little more aware. Guesses ingredients in food. Prepares nutritious snacks looking at a recipe, and definitely can serve themselves appropriate quantity of food. So also observable that they're least indicators. Now to achieve all this, we need to have a set of activities. Because if there is a learning outcome, how do we get to the outcome without doing an activity or a written work or a pencil paper or a drawing? So I've consolidated 10 activities or 11 activities for this particular competency. It's got a combination of sorting, classification, logical reasoning, communication, cooperation, vocabulary building, art expression, understanding healthy and unhealthy food, visual memory, colors, and a holistic awareness around this particular topic. When you're listening to it, it seems like a lot, but it's really not. So, when we talk about the beginner, we can just do a simple sorting of edible and non edible things in a tray. For level 2, you can do a sorting of flashcards of edible and non edible things, and in circle time, you can talk about my favorite food. At level 2, you can talk about my favorite food, and the children can be given small cards to draw their food on, and these very cards can be used for sorting activities as well. Class 1 can do sorting of picture cards into food groups, fruits, vegetables, and pulses and grains and so on and so forth. And in tiffin time, they can actually open the tiffin and describe, which part their food belongs to. And then by class 2, they have an awareness of nutritional value. So they can actually pick up picture cards or even, simple food items and say, uh, put them under the categories of vitamins, calcium, iron, just beginning to understand that, oh, so what does this have? And once you've had a circle time with all of this, they can actually either put real fruit items, food items, or they can just put flashcards. Now, activity 8 could be helping the children to make stick puppets of fruits, vegetables, fruit items and talk about them, display them on the theme boards. Activity 9 could be organize a food mela with the help of the parents. So, where they can bring up, nutritional meals and they can put up stalls or just have a simple serving activity where they can serve each other. Have a circle time and talk about how traditionally one was always encouraged to serve very small portions at the first round and then take only as much as needed. And this specially should be brought into focus when you take your children out for social gatherings because you see so much of wastage in plates which is not necessary and it should be completely discouraged right from day one. Another activity could be to send a note home for the parents to have smaller servings and while serving to actually just talk about food, the color, the nutrition, and so on and so forth. So, with this series of activities, when the children are doing them, you can actually observe and understand whether a particular learning outcome has been achieved or not. Because just pencil paper testing is not going to be enough. And none of the activities that I have right now mentioned are difficult to do. Also, very important to remember that the activities are graded. Like you said, that okay, class 1, class 2, class UKG or the LKG or the beginners. But it's very important to understand that activities can be interchanged. The older children can do activities that are actually allotted for the younger ones as well. And when the younger ones are doing activities, if you feel you need an advanced activity, you can borrow it from this list. So, for every competency, you have these 5 levels, the beginners level 1, level 2, class 1, class 2, and you have put some activities under it. Now that chart becomes your aid and it becomes a process which you can keep growing. So every year you can add to this list and choose from this list. So today we've completed the first competency. As soon as I get a little bandwidth, I'm going to do the second one for you. Sometimes it may not be possible to get the correct light and the ideal circumstances, but let us try to do this on a regular basis so that in the next few weeks we complete all the competencies with a whole list of activities. Thank you so much and do let me know if this has been of any use to you and how can we make it better together. Bye bye.